Port calls. We all know they're complex. They involve various stakeholders with different needs, making planning a challenge. Carriers, ports, terminal operators, and customers all want to optimize their operations, reduce waiting times, and minimize greenhouse gas emissions. However, there is currently no single source of truth for event information, and exchanging data is often done ad hoc by phone and email, resulting in misaligned communication and inefficiency for the whole port. Here's a typical example. A carrier schedules a berthing slot with a terminal operator for a vessel currently sailing to port. This vessel runs into a severe delay, in this case bad weather. The vessel sends a new estimated time of arrival at berth, indicating they're going to be late. The terminal now needs to find a new berthing slot in their planning, potentially many hours later. The new slot might take time to be aligned with the carrier. In the meantime, the ship will sail full speed to try and make up for lost time. With no new handshake agreement between the ship and the terminal operator, and no further communication to the port ecosystem, the other stakeholders, such as the Port Authority, are unclear about which arrival time is correct and how to plan nautical services, such as pilotage, tugs, and linesmen. Once the ship arrives, there is still another ship at berth, and other ships waiting at the pilot boarding place. Misalignment caused our ship to wait another 8 hours for berthing. Actual time of arrival at berth is 8 a.m. All these delays carry over to subsequent port operations and port calls. All of this inefficiency, waste, and waiting could be eliminated by just-in-time port call communication. So what does JIT mean exactly? In short, JIT creates transparency in the port call process. Port call events are communicated following a clear process in an accessible and actionable way by all stakeholders involved in the port call. JIT aims to reduce vessel waiting times at ports, improve efficiency, and reduce emissions. To support JIT operations, the International Maritime Organization has set guidelines for the implementation of a standardized negotiation cycle for vessels. This is known as the ERP cycle. ERP stands for Estimated, Requested, and Planned. DCSA has turned the IMO guideline into a digital communication standard, the DCSA JIT Implementation Framework. Think of it like a global language to communicate about each port call using the ERP cycle. The standard enables implementation of the ERP cycle, making digital port call event communication directly actionable and applicable. So, how does it work? It all starts with an ETA. Let's take berthing as an example. The ETA berth is first digitally communicated by the carrier to the terminal. After verifying berth availability, the terminal operator responds with an RTA. The carrier confirms this as a handshake agreement and sends a planned time of arrival. The PTA is always the same as the RTA, and is the most up-to-date arrival time to be shared with all stakeholders in the port call. Any changes to the ETA or RTA trigger a new cycle until a new PTA is established and communicated. An actual time of arrival will also be communicated to confirm that arrival has occurred. The event timestamps are communicated to every stakeholder using a standardized messaging format called an API. The API enables real-time, analyzable machine-to-machine data communication regardless of the platform or program used. By facilitating instant communication of accurate, usable data for every event, the DCSA JIT Implementation Framework will make the port call negotiations faster and transparent. As a result, port call events are better aligned and will become more efficient, predictable, sustainable, and safer. Recent studies estimate that JIT arrival of vessels can reduce greenhouse gas emissions on par with the total annual CO2 emission of a small European country. In a port call, the timing of each event is dependent on the timing of all previous and subsequent events. With JIT, every step in the container supply chain for all vessels can be planned more accurately. This creates a network effect in which these operations become more efficient at sea, at port, on land, and for every stakeholder across the trade ecosystem. Visit dcsa.org for more information and join the movement towards a more efficient and sustainable future for port calls.